All right, let's talk about something that is, honestly, a massive challenge for pretty much any leader out there. How do you actually build new leaders on your team? We're not just talking about giving someone a new title, we're talking about really intentionally growing that potential. So, where on earth do you start?
And that's really the core question, isn't it? I mean, you can manage projects, you can hit your deadlines, but how do you truly build a person? How do you take someone who's a fantastic contributor and turn them into someone who can genuinely inspire and lead others? That's what we're going to unpack today.
You know, the answer isn't some super complex 10-point management program or a fancy framework. It's actually much simpler. And it starts with a hard look in the mirror. It starts with you. The whole thing hinges on one simple rule. You have to be the kind of leader someone would want to follow. You have to be the role model first.
And that brings us right to this foundational idea: leading by example. Now, I know it sounds like a total cliche, right? But it is the absolute bedrock of real mentorship. So let's actually break down what that means when you're on the ground doing the work.
So here's the key thing to get. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about showing them how it's done. Showing them how you think, how you tackle a tough problem, how you handle yourself when things get stressful. Your actions, they literally become the blueprint for your team.
So if leading by example is the foundation, what's the first brick you lay? Well, it's about shifting your whole mindset. You've got to go from being the director, the boss on high, to being a collaborator. It's about fundamentally changing up that dynamic you have with your team. And just look at the contrast here. You've got the traditional boss, right? They're up here, directing from above. But the mentor leader, they get down in the trenches with their people. They're not afraid to say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Let's figure it out together. That single shift, it builds instant trust and shows everyone that learning never stops, not even for the person in charge.
Okay, this next idea is so powerful. Seriously, this is where the real deep mentorship happens. It's about being vulnerable. It's about using your own past mistakes, your failures, as maybe your single greatest teaching tool.
Just think about that for a second. We're all basically trained to hide our screw-ups, right? Project this image of perfection. But real mentorship just flips that idea on its head. Sharing a story about a time you really messed up and what you learned from it is worth more than a dozen stories about your successes. It gives your team permission to take risks, to fail, and to learn too.
And it's not complicated. There's a really simple way to do it. Just 3 steps. First, you just acknowledge the mistake, openly, no excuses. Second, you distill the lesson. What was the actual takeaway? And finally, you share the story. You turn a personal screw-up into a powerful lesson for everybody.
So as we start to pull all these pieces together, let's zoom out and think about the big picture here, the long-term impact. Because this stuff, it's not just about managing your team day to day. It's about building a true legacy of leadership that's going to stick around long after you've moved on. So let's just recap this whole journey, right? It all starts with you being the role model. Then you get in there and learn alongside your team. You don't just boss them around. You find the courage to share your failures and turn them into lessons. And when you do all of that, the result is, well, it's profound. You don't just manage people anymore. You develop true leaders. That's how you build a team that can innovate and grow. And that brings us right to the end. I just want to leave you with one question to really think about. Looking back on your own career, your own mistakes, and the lessons you learned the hard way. What is the one story you need to share with your team? The one story of failure that could actually unlock their potential? Think about it. That conversation might just be the most important leadership move you make all year.